when you're talking about data centers, I think right now there's a lot of negativity towards them. And we're going to get into why in a moment. I think it's a good time because no matter what we say, though, they're coming, right? There's nothing that's going to stop them, really. And that's unfortunate because I've heard some issues where there's cities that the people are saying we don't want them, we don't want them, and um, even some of the local government is saying that, but they're still coming up and they're still going there. They're still getting the permits and everything they need to build, and they're just skirting around public opinion. So, what exactly is a data center? Well, Brandon, you would kind of probably describe it as what? Like, I mean, it's just a lot of servers. It's a lot of like what modems and routers, and I mean, it's essentially the internet, right? Um, but I guess a lot of people don't realize that we've had them around for a while. I mean, we got to have the internet, or this is how you do the internet. Um, but I guess an AI data center, it's like tens of thousands of GPUs. NVIDIA's got the chips wired together in one giant brain, which is my brain. You train a model by running for months at a time. And I saw something. I saw this video. I don't know if you saw it. It was in India, and they had all of these people doing, I don't know, sitting at like these office desks, and they're putting something together. I don't know. They're building something, and they've got cameras on them and on their heads, and they're paying these people to train the AI robots how to do this. And so we're starting to get into that era where you can make a little bit of money right now, by doing that if you want. I don't know if they're doing that in the US. I assume they probably are, but I don't, I just don't really hear about it, but maybe not. Um, let's go a little over the history of things. The first data centers really happened in the 1960s, right? And they were just rooms inside banks and governments and universities housing like one massive IBM style computer. I'm sure people have gone online and seen those pictures of like those fucking computers back then, and it was like a whole fucking room, right? And now look what we can get on our phones and everything else. Um, yeah, and then they were climate controlled because the machines literally couldn't be near humans because humans hit on them a lot. No, that was not the reason, but um and then in the 70s and 80s, we've got the phrase or the term of data center being born, and it enters the lexicon. Companies start dedicating entire floors to servers as client server computing replaces mainframes. This is crazy to me. If people like kind of follow this timeline a little bit, um, it's weird to think that that was already happening in the 70s and 80s, right? Like when we really didn't even have much of anything. I feel like I'm not giving you enough to say. So do you want to chime in here? Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the history of data centers.
Sure. Well, yeah, I just want to speak on, yeah, it's crazy to think of an entire floor in like an office building being dedicated to this data center task.
Yeah.
Not only, I mean, in pure space usage, we still have data centers that are just, right, they're just somewhere else now. They still take up the same space as an entire floor or maybe more.
Right, right.
But, um,
But more
yeah, it's like
computing. But obviously
more
they can do a
computing,
lot more.
and
Yeah,
it's incredibly inefficient just to do it on like a floor of a building where you could have more people, where like people already are.
right.
And it's like, let's take an entire floor. But that just goes to show how important this technology was to what we were working on, people using technology more and more, crunching numbers. So yeah, I'm gonna keep moving ahead because the 1990s shows we have the
Our
.com
favorite
explosion.
decade.
That's
Yes.
right. It's the 90s. It's the one with all the little squiggly lines and crazy colors.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
we love the 90s. That was
it's
my
like,
favorite part about the 90s was the squiggly
yeah.
lines. Now if you do the squiggly lines, it's offensive.
Yeah, one episode of Saved by the Bell took 3 data centers apparently
Yeah. Just to
no,
get
I
those
made that up.
squiggly lines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To generate one squiggly line,
Yeah.
it killed 3 turtles. Uh, so yeah, I mean, like, because this is all the .com explosion. So you need to host web pages on the web. Um, and yeah, because just as a quick like primer, it's like you're not when you're going to a web page, it's not just magically in the air. It's on a computer. It's like you could make a web page on your own computer, but you'd be the only person who could view it. But you can click on it if you wrote the web page with the language, with the code, you could look at it through your own computer. So when you're looking at it through the internet, you're connecting to a data center,
Yeah.
most likely. And so, yeah, in the 2000s, 90s, like .com explosion, you have all these all these websites cropping up everywhere, and you need data centers for all this. So we have the idea of co-location is invented. This is multiple companies sharing one warehouse of servers in tens of thousands of facilities globally. So it's like, so the ideas of like these mega data centers where you might have lots of companies using it. Moving ahead, we have the 2000s era, which is my second favorite era, I would
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah, it's a good time.
This
Minus
is
9/11. I don't want any
minus 9/11. Yeah.
bad comments. Minus 9/11. Obviously, that sucked. The rest of it
Yeah,
was cool though.
there was a little sucky
Little
area
blurt
part
there.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No data centers though, because they were moved out of the tall buildings by
Mm.
then. I don't know if that matters or not. The cloud era. So the 2000s, we're looking at the cloud era. We're talking about Google, Amazon, Microsoft. Okay. We start building warehouse sized hyperscale, quote unquote, facilities. These are defined as anything over 5,000 servers. So this is like the modern era of the birth of like the modern data center, right? So this is 2000s era here. Yeah, and those are a few points. You want to take us home with the rest of the decades up until now?
Well, hyperscale becomes the norm, which is fascinating. Some facilities now exceed 1 million square feet. Edge data centers, ooh, I don't like that name, pop up to reduce latency. And then we crossed 500,000 facilities worldwide in the 2010s. In the 2020s, of course, everybody's talking about the AI era. November of 2022, what launches, Brendan?
ChatGPT.
Yeah, and then that really changes. And then obviously everything else comes beyond it, and the competition begins. Every hyperscaler pivots. The buildings get bigger, hotter, hungrier, and the largest now exceed 1 million square feet, with custom GPU clusters costing tens of billions of dollars apiece.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. But, we've been building them for 60 years. So I think that's the first important thing that people should know. So they know what's inside. They know it's network infrastructure. It's internet infrastructure. It's all this stuff that makes everything happen for everything now. I mean, everything's connected to it now, right? Like the power grid, everything is electronic. So, and then we know that we've been building them for the last 60 years, but they really have only been in the news just the last couple of years, and that's where people are starting to, start. People that hear about them don't really like them for the most part. Um, you know, uh, there's power concerns. You have to cool everything. And that's where the water starts using. Now, my understanding, and maybe you could clear this up for me, my understanding is that the water is recycled back to wherever it comes from, right? But I don't know if that's good water or bad water. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I've heard that before, and I think that's probably how some of them work. But I don't know if they all work that way.
Yeah,
I mean, like if we're talking about water, we can look at because I mean there is some data we can look at with when it specifically comes to water.
yeah.
Um, and if you're ready for that, I'll spill out a couple numbers here.
Chew
Um,
it up.
yeah, so a medium-sized data center uses 110 million gallons of water per
Say
year.
what?
What?
That's oh yeah, good job.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was crazy. That's crazy.
So this
That
is
is
the
crazy
same.
though. Yeah, that is crazy.
Yes. So this is the same as a 1,000 households. So 1,000 households worth of water per year. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's a medium-sized
And they
data
mean
center.
like they don't mean like houses full of water. Just so
I
people
don't
want to
think
know,
so.
they mean
Yeah.
how much a household would use. So it's how much 1,000
Yeah.
households would use in that year.
Yeah.
Just for the dumb people
Exactly.
out there that watch our pod, if there's any, I'm sure you're all smart.
Fun fact: about equivalent to the same amount that the CI uses for their yearly waterboarding needs.
Yeah.
A large AI data center can use 5 million gallons of water per a day. Okay, we previously went per year. This is per day. So this is equivalent of a town of 10,000 to 50,000 people. I know it's kind of a big variance, but I mean, it really depends on the data center, evidently. But
That's a lot of water.
that's a lot of water. Yeah. It's a ton of water. So we're talking about, if we're talking about how much it's using, that's not the same as saying like there might be some recycled water, but they are using that much water. And it looks like they're using that much per year. And let me just run through a couple more of these and we can talk about it. The US data centers consumed 449 million of gallons per day in 2021, and that number has only gone up. And that is according to I have a citation here. It looks like EESI, But I just wanted to call that out if anybody wants to look into these like facts
Yeah,
for themselves. They can
right.
fact check this stuff. Um,
Easy. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not gonna break it down.
easy enemies of super intelligence.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. There you go.
yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, we have some more figures. You can throw out some if you want, but I mean, what are your thoughts on this? This water?
Well, first of all, it does say that about 80% of the water withdrawn evaporates. It does not come back to the watershed. Oh, um, that kind of answers our question on that. That's quite a bit of usage if only 20% is coming back. And then we've got here's Northern Virginia's 300 plus. They have over 300 data centers, used nearly 2 billion gallons in 2023, which was a 63% increase since 2019. Now, this is going to be on the pro side, or sorry, on the con side for me of data centers. Um, because let's talk about this for a minute. And before, actually, let's go through the electricity and then we'll talk about what both of these mean. About 415, what's TWH? Global data centers use 415 TWH in 2024. Well, guys, I'm not an electrician, so that's what it used. Hopefully you understand, which is about 1.5% of all electricity on Earth. Which is crazy. By 2030, 145 TWH, more than doubling. That's roughly equal to Japan's entire current electricity consumption. In the U.S., data centers will drive nearly 50% of all electricity demand growth through 2030. By 2030, U.S. data centers will use more electricity than all energy-intensive manufactured combined. That includes aluminum, steel, um, cement, chemicals, all of it. Goldman Sachs projects global data center power demand rising up to 165% by 2030. And for people who are like, "Oh God, that's not that far away," you're right, it's not, because we are in 2026 and the years go by fast and things are moving just at a fast pace. But knowing how much electricity it takes, knowing how much water it takes, there is a situation going on. I don't know if you've there's some companies in Indiana where there was a small town in northwest Indiana specifically. I can't remember the name of the town, but they ran a news story on this, and there was people going to the town hall to um talk about their electric bills. People were having $800 electric bills a month. Electric was skyrocketing across Indiana and a lot of other companies, or sorry, with all the companies there in a lot of other areas. And the biggest reason for this was, well, we've got strains on the electric grid are starting to happen, right? So now we've got, besides the AI data centers, we have electric cars. So we have electric fueling stations. That's taking a drain. And just everything, and then the demand for it because of how much it's going to demand. That is what the one thing I'm worried about is how much this is going to make electric and water go up. Luckily, I have a well. You have a well. Um, but there are people on city water, and that all that stuff is going to go up. And the demand also is do we have enough for that demand? Like, what are your thoughts on the electricity usage and the water usage? And I don't really think there's a way. I mean, maybe in the future they can find a way to make this easier or less impactful, but I don't know. But tell me your
Yeah.
thoughts.
We need to position ourselves for the future. We need to be building power more than I think any other country builds power. I think nuclear power plants, fire them all up, build more. I think invest completely into other green energy sources. Obviously solar, wind, water, or whatever we have available there.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is the big one for the future. This is going to decide. I mean, it's not just about country versus country, but it's about where we're going to land in the future, right? It's like how close are we going to hit the target on this utopian future that we're promising everybody that we hope can arrive because of AI and because of the things that we need as a side effect of AI, which is one of them is these giant data centers that have a lot of usage. I think water is abundant, but it's not abundant everywhere. So it's important where you build a data center. I know that some people care about building like some of these data centers, especially when we're talking about visiting a web page, you want to build it close to where people are using it. Many people listening to this might be playing a video game, and I play a lot of online games, and latency is a concern. You don't want to play a multiplayer game and have like you go to shoot
You say
somebody and
latency, huh? I say
well,
latency.
Yeah,
Weird.
latency. It's like potato,
Yeah, potato, potato, tomato,
potato,
tomato,
banana is what I like to say.
tomorrow,
Um,
tomorrow.
yeah. So yeah, and so these things matter, and so you have to build these types of data centers close to people. But I also think this problem sort of solves itself as like technology gets more and more micro, like nano sized. And we can do more what's called edge computing, which is like instead of having these giant data centers that are doing all these computing, like Chicago's a big one that kind of computes for our area. There's a good chance if you connect to a multiplayer game, you're actually routed through like a Chicago server.
Okay.
Um, there's more edge computing happening where now you're actually getting like micro computing sources where at the edge of the network, right? So it's like your computer, your Xbox, or your like now it's like your toaster has its own little kind of like circuitry and system in there.
Yeah.
But
My
going
toaster, I
back
use it
to,
as an alarm clock.
do you really? Yeah,
Yeah,
you just
just
put toast in there and wake up when things smell like they're burning.
yeah. Yeah, I only get
Yeah.
about 4 minutes of sleep, but hey, it works.
Yeah, I find that to keep it down, and you jam a fork in there, and it helps keep
Oh,
it.
definitely. Yeah, that's like the
Yeah,
best, dude. And it's almost like a little bit of a weird high. I don't know, I can't explain it. But yeah, it's
yeah,
nice.
it's just vibrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so getting back to the data center, energy usage and water usage. I think the water is abundant, but I think we need to build them where the water is. Obviously, there's tons of water around
Do
the
you
Great
think we're doing
Lakes.
things backwards though? Like because another reason why the electricity is really high is they're replacing electric companies, and we've seen this around here, but we've also seen it with our internet company where they've been replacing a lot of old stuff. I mean, they're just upgrading like fiber optics or whatever. But the electricity, from what I'm reading, is that they have like 50, 60-year-old lines, and all of a sudden, like it seems like a lot of the companies are replacing them now. And probably because they're realizing that they're going to need them. But I feel like everything's not done in the correct order in this country a lot of times. And I want to know about what you think of that. And then I also want to know, like, what do these people do that have like $800 fucking electric bills and they can't, and like, they're like, they have to pay, they need electric. So they got to do that. And somewhere else, they've got to say, okay, I guess I'm not paying this or I'm not paying that or I'm not eating as much this month. So what do they do until, that all gets figured out? You're like my AI, you're the closest thing I have to an AI expert. So I bring all the tough questions to you.
AI liaison. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is that some of my views about what to do with it ultimately might differ from you, even if you
Yeah.
knew exactly what I
Nuke
knew
them
too.
all. No, I'm just kidding. I know we need them. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, like I said at the beginning, they're going to happen. So it just sucks.
Well, I do sympathize with the people that don't want data centers near them because it is a big concern. Who wants their electric bill to go up? So I think there needs to be some sort of legislation or contingencies or at least some sort of self-regulation as far as you can imagine that these companies are capable of that to power their own data. I mean, like I know Microsoft is already sort of there was a big news thing a while back where it's like they have their own nuclear power, like their own nuclear reactor to power data centers or whatever they're using it for.
Are you for
And
nuclear power?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'm for it.
It is pretty clean. I mean, the only problem is if we have some kind of meltdown, right?
That's right. If we have some kind of meltdown and everybody
Yeah.
dies and we're all ghouls walking around. But you know what? It could be worse. But
Yeah, I
I
guess.
think that what I really think is that and this is common. I think people have been saying this for a little while now that nuclear meltdowns they're not the risk of it happening now with modern
Yeah.
reactors and power plants is very low compared
If
to
you're
what
not
it
in
used to be.
Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, and so I mean build where the water is abundant, where you're not causing shortages there. And then as far as power goes, there should be some responsibility on the companies building the data center to have to build their own power source
What about
or
a
have to
data
build
town? Why just fucking build a
do
fucking
it.
town nowhere near people? Just have it all data. Just have it all there. I mean, have some people guard it or whatever you need. The people inside, I mean,
Well, that's why
it's
one
going to
of
be more
my
expensive to them, but
you certainly could. I think it would be nice to do that. I think that they want it to be somewhat distributed as well.
yeah,
So that
I
way,
hear you.
yeah, if you build it in Kansas, then people in New York and LA have the same distance. But if you're able to have one near LA and you're able to have one in
Right.
Kansas and have one
And
in
we have how
Philadelphia,
many of them, Brandon? We have 5,427 data centers right now. So I'm assuming that
it's a
most
lot.
people are close to one, at some, for the most part.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's a lot. And by the way, TWH, I looked it up. It's terawatt hours. That's what it
terawatt
stands for.
hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's tera is usually what, 1,000?
I don't. I think giga. I think. Do you
Oh,
remember
you're
in
right.
Back to the
Giga is
Future?
1,000, right?
Do
Yeah,
you remember in
yeah,
Back to the Future when he said that plutonium was needed to generate the I forgot what it was, 1 point or 2 point something gigawatts?
yeah,
He said,
yeah, yeah.
and it
I
was
just thought that was
considered
made up. Was that a real thing?
no, it's a real unit under tera, I believe, because it's kind of like in computer storage, you have the megabyte, the gigabyte, and the terabyte,
Mm,
and
right.
I'd imagine that it probably scales the same way for power,
And the
whereas you
terabyte
have
is
a
1,000 gigs, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
roughly,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably have a megawatt, you have a watt, megawatt, gigawatt, terawatt.
What's going on with that?
What's up? What's up? So yeah, I'm all for building these data centers, but I don't think we should impact the people locally in terms of their bills because people are having a hard enough time. It's a hard enough pill to swallow to say, hey, the future's going to be great, but we have to build these things.
Yeah.
But already gas is $5 a gallon, depending on where you live. It could be more. And then you have these data centers moving in that now it's like your bill, like you said, $800 a month is astronomical for somebody who might be used to a bill that's more like $200 a month. What do you do about that? Well, for those people, I think that you have to be part of your local your local community. Go to your town hall, and if you don't want one there because you're worried about that, then talk about that and petition for it. And if it's already happened, I think you have a right to be upset. And I'm not sure. I don't have a good prescription for that exact
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, because I've seen some things where they are going to the town halls, but it doesn't matter. The amount of money in taxes that these companies are going to pay to be there, I guess that would be a pro. Is that they are going to generate a lot of money in taxes and in tax revenue and things like that. Now they create jobs, but mainly, like we had said before, they mainly just create them in the construction of it, right? There's not really going to be too many people actually working at the data center. Um, so that's rough too, because usually that's all you needed to get people to agree to have something built in your town, like a prison or something, or even then it was kind of tough, but like something that was not only going to create jobs in the actual construction phase, but in the complete phase too, and still be able to create jobs for decades down the line. Now, data centers, I would argue, aren't going to be doing that. But I'm assuming that, I mean, do you know how many people like would be, I mean, obviously it would vary, but if you're talking about just like a small little data center that only power, that takes up as much electricity as 1,000 homes in a year or whatever, I mean, how many people would be working there? It probably wouldn't be very many, right? Maybe, I mean, are we looking at the single digits there, or don't you really know?
I don't know, but I can guess based on what I know. I mean, I've worked around a data center before, and a very small one for just for that company. But it was basically a giant
It's like a
server
data hut.
room. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So it doesn't take a team of people, multiple teams of people to maintain these things necessarily. The building of them does take multiple people. It takes construction companies, people with blue collar jobs and white collar jobs, and it runs the full spectrum there. But yeah, once these things are built, it's like it doesn't. I don't think it takes as many jobs as the footprint of it would suggest that it could take. Like an Amazon warehouse uses many more physical human workers to run it and is better for the local worker economy than, and even that has its own share of controversies about people peeing in
Yeah.
bottles and stuff if you work for Amazon.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
with these data centers, I can see how that could
I
be a
ordered
sore
one of those
point.
bottles on Amazon.
Yeah, how'd it go?
It was pretty good.
Tangy.
Yeah, it said you're in for a good
Yeah.
time. Like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a section here. I think this is be really interesting because there's a basic breakdown here where we can just talk about like the case for data centers and like the case against it. And it's like because this is a really polarized thing where people seem like they're really divided on. I'm one of the people who ultimately, given there I'm aware there's pros and cons, but I'm pro data center because I'm pro the advancement of technology, and I think that AI is a really amazing technology that can lead to lots of great things if we handle it correctly. So it might be fun, maybe even if I kind of am the for and you want to take the against, if we want to do it that way.
Do it up, man.
So jobs and tax base. So we didn't talk about this, but there's a whole thing called Stargate, which is it was an announcement called the Stargate Project. in January 2025, and it involves OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX, which is a bunch of companies. And it's $500 billion over 4 years to build U.S. data centers. So we already know that this is going to happen. We've got tons of money, probably more than ever, dedicated to this task. So it does it. The process of building the infrastructure and doing all this, like I said, that it takes a lot of jobs. It's going to add a lot of jobs. So we have hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? On just the data that I'm looking at here is what it's estimated to generate, which is really great, I think. A couple other things are national security and AI leadership. So if losing the AI race, like, do you want the US to win the AI race or do you want China to win it? We already know, I mean, we've heard about the censorship and the other types of ways that China tends to handle information and control over its populace. And that's not to say we don't have our fair share of problems in America, but I think that I would rather the US win the AI race, or at very least stay on par
I
with
think
it.
it's about winning or losing. I think it's about what it's going to be, what everybody's going to use in the end. I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Like the rest of the world is going to be China's AI, is going to be the US's AI. So really, you could still win, but you could still lose in a way.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's an element. I mean, yeah, even winning in all the ways you think are winning can still lead to a catastrophic loss.
yeah,
Obviously, we just did our Doomsday episode. If you missed
yeah.
that was the last
Go
one we
check it out,
did.
guys. It's on YouTube and Spotify right now. Get it down. Get it now. Leave a
That's
comment.
right. Um, You talked about this where you said sometimes you feel like we do things in the wrong order, lots of upgrades and stuff, things like that. Well, this creating all these data centers sort of is a forcing function for grid modernization, right? So we have to go through. We do have an aging U.S. grid for resources, for internet, electricity, and all these things. So this is also helping in bolstering like grid investments, right? And the U.S. and our own government being like, we need to have a stronger grid to support this data center. I think that's a good thing. And then just a couple other points I'm going to rattle off real quick is nuclear power. I think that because data centers are consuming so much power, we are looking at nuclear seriously for the first time in a long time, and other countries are at risk at being outpaced. Countries like China come up again, where I think they have seen the light when it comes to nuclear, and so, and it takes a while to build these places. So we want to start now because it can take several years to get these places going from breaking ground to where they're fully operational. And then finally, like AI, and we talked about this in other episodes, but the advancements that we'll get from AI are amazing because we have medical advancements like drug discovery, there's material science, education. I mean, education is a whole rant I could go off. I think that our college system and our grade school K through 12 system is really broken. I think that everybody is like smashed into this burger where one bite is supposed to reach every student, and that's not how it works. I feel
That's a
like a
great
student who is,
metaphor.
I appreciate it.
I love your
I
food metaphors.
I feel like a student who was lost, who was smashed into this burger, and I
But
was
are we
one of the
really going to
pickle.
need college? Because we'd already talked about how AI is going to take those knowledge-based jobs first, and they're already starting to do that. So what's college really going to do for anybody? Is it going to be more like, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to talk.
I
I
know.
don't know. I'm gonna say this. I don't know if we'll need college. I think you make a great point, but I think that college should be available. I think that it depends on what you mean by college. Is it college, or are you talking about furthering your education?
Well,
Are
the
you talking about
knowledge base
the
things,
knowledge
like the
base?
ones where you need a degree for, like a professional degree for. But I could see where you could go, like to like a specialty, or you could do hands-on stuff. There's still other like technical university or something like that, like something like that where you're definitely going to still need it. But I'm talking like the high-paying job, like you're just talking about healthcare. How many doctors are we going to need in the future? Probably not as many if AI is going to do a lot of the work. How many lawyers are we going to need? How many of this are we going to need? How many judges are we going to need? How many, like, this is all going to, AI is going to start
Yeah.
taking over this load at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But I mean, I think that the college system is antiquated. I don't think it is working very well right now. And I think that AI can deliver. The thing is that I think that humans are capable of being so much smarter by having access to knowledge, by AI advancing knowledge as well. Um so like the downside of this is you might say, well, like we already have to learn so much, and then are you saying that AI is going to come along and it's going to make X more discoveries, and humans are going to be able to fit those discoveries into their head. But what I would say is that I think that the way humans work, and it seems like what we've worked, is that we make discoveries and then we build on top of them. And we don't have to know the specifics of what we built on top of necessarily anymore. This is really true because for me, I work on a computer and I do coding. And coders 30 years ago had to code, or maybe even longer, had to code in binary. And then they had to code in a language called assembly, right? And what I'm coding is sitting on top of those languages, but I don't have to know it. I don't have to fill my head with that knowledge. I can
Right.
fill my head with just the top layer of where the edge of computing is right now. Right now, you make websites using technologies called JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and we use frameworks, and I could get all into the weeds of that kind of junk. But that's where I live. And so I'm surfing on the waves of an ocean of knowledge that I don't have to know all about. And so AI could give us a whole ocean of knowledge advancement. And then humans in the future could be surfing on top of that. And so their knowledge is still helpful for the advancement. They're still right on the cutting edge. They're not left behind. But AI has done so much to bridge that gap. So that's another point.
All right. You're making your case. You're making your case. All right. Do you have any more pros of having an AI data center?
No, I'm out of pros.
More porn for people, I guess, if they're into porn?
That's a different, yeah, that's like an anagram.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk about the cons. I'm not even a Star Wars fan. I just fucked that up.
Oh.
I'm not even a Star Trek fan. Oh, boy. Yeah. Here come the comments.
You know, Captain Kirk could drive the Millennium Falcon. I forgot how fast it was. Anyways, keep going.
Okay, so obviously, the electricity, we talked about that. That is a con. Bills are up 27% since 2019, and that's, I'm assuming, expected to continue to go up. 1 in 6 households are delinquent now in their electricity, and that's tough. That's rough. And this is where I get it, because this is one of those things where I'm thinking about all the low-income people, and it's going to affect them a lot more than the rest of the population. So I do think about that. Disproportionate environmental burden on marginalized communities. So that's a case. The water stress, the drought prone states. That's another thing. Like we talked about how 80% of the water that's withdrawn, 80% of withdrawn water evaporates. Sorry. But there are drought places and we've had this up. We're from Michigan. We live in Michigan. And throughout most of our life, I'm sure you can attest to this, we've heard, oh, they're taking our water. They all want the Great Lakes water. They're taking it. So there's also those things to think about. It's like, well, if you live in Arizona or New Mexico or Nevada or Texas or whatever, and you've got those droughts, like where are they going to get the water from? The aquifers are already dried up underneath the land. Like where are you going to get that from? And I think that's important too. Climate goals are slipping. Microsoft emissions are up 29 to 40% since pledging carbon negative, which seems like the opposite thing that they should be doing. And there's a asset bubble risk, which is what I call my fart bubbles. CAPEX is approaching .com era levels at 0.8% of GDP. Stock correlation across AI hyperscalers fell from 80% to 20%. Markets are getting nervous. So what does that mean, Brandon? Give me the layman's terms on that.
I think that means we're going to be in the middle of building the most massive data centers we've ever built. And then the AI bubble will burst, money will go away, and we're gonna have a ton of half-built data centers just decomposing across the U.S.
That's no good. And then they'll be haunted in 100 years, and then people can make a show and go there and talk about the ghosts of the AI or whatever. Obviously, states are using different tax breaks to try to lure the data centers in, so there's going to be competing for that. One thing that I did want to also say that I would consider a con is the waste. And this isn't just regular waste. We're talking about obviously garbage and stuff too. But the biggest thing is they bring noise pollution, 24/7 cooling systems, and periodic testing of hundreds of diesel backup generators. That's a lot of generators. They have issues there with the noise pollution, so it's like living next to a heavy metal concert that never ends because The decibels of these noises that's coming out of this is 92 to 96 out of these data centers, which is kind of loud. Data centers are constantly updating hardware, so old servers and network equipment becoming obsolete quickly due to rapid advances in chip performances. And then this creates significant quantities of e-waste or electronic waste, which often contains toxic materials and requires careful handling. This is challenging to everybody. It raises questions, and I'm not even sure where we're dumping this e-waste. So that's also what I would say is a con. Um, Overall, like I said, I mean, I agree with you. It's good. First of all, like we're gonna, I'm gonna keep hammering this point. It's gonna happen no matter what. You know, people are gonna go in no matter what. It's gonna happen. This, like you said the last episode, the AI train ain't stopping. It's here. And we're all along for it with for a ride, and we don't. You know, there's nothing we can do about it. Um, so it is tough. I'm with you on the fact that like so I am against them, but at the same time I do know that we're going to need them. And it's one of those tough things where it's like it doesn't matter if you're against it, it's going to happen. And but like you said before, we need something to help these people in the meantime that are dealing with the strain of the electric bills or maybe lack of water or the water whatever it is or the e-waste or you know the noise pollution, whatever it is, we need some kind of help with that. And I just think that this country is not the best at, especially lately. I just feel like this country is not the best at helping its own people. So hopefully they figure some shit out, but I'm more negative on it. You're more positive on it. But in the end, we both know what's going to happen. And in the end, we both know it's going to be good. You always talk about the college and the medical and what it's going to do. And I do agree with you. It's going to do great things. But I also think there's going to be class warfare there. I really think that a lot of that stuff won't be available to the poor people. And so there's issues with that too that I feel like are you know, um, and I'm all for the little guy. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Do you want to talk? Like, do you want to hammer your point home anymore, or talk about anything else with these data centers that might be
Well,
important?
I think we touched on most of the important stuff. I do want to say that there is a middle ground that you can have here. I think you can be against a local data center, but still pro data
Right.
centers in general
Yeah.
in the country.
Go
You
put them in a
understand.
different city. I'll even tell them some cities of people that I don't like that live there.
Yeah. We have plenty of space, lots of space that's not great for farmland, space that's not really being used for lots of other things that I think that we have the technology to go out and manufacture these data centers. And the US is a big enough place. We can find a spot for it. We
Alaska.
need to open up Alaska, sure. Open up legislation to allow to easing some of the rules with what we can do as far as energy use. This might be something where we're at odds, but I'm more willing to take risk as far as however we need to get energy to in order to propel us into the future. And that's it. I mean, we live in a small to medium sized town where just recently we had a data center that was going to go up near us that local people rose up and they decided they didn't want it and it worked and they didn't build it.
Yeah.
So it can work in a local sense. But yeah, I would just urge you not to be completely head in the sand about it and consider, there's a reality that would be nice to have where we could take a pause button to all AI across the earth as a whole, and we could have, get our sense of job security back. The truckers can keep trucking, and the people with other jobs that are worried about losing them can keep them as well. But I just don't think that's a reality that we can really. It's not the perception that I have.
Yeah, it's tough because if you go to people and you be like, "Hey, these data centers are they're gonna help us in the future. AI is gonna help us do all this stuff," and they're gonna be like, "Oh, are they gonna create more jobs?" You're gonna be like, "Well, at first," and then they're gonna be like, "Okay, well, then we're gonna create. Isn't AI gonna take our jobs eventually?" And you'd be like, "Yeah," and then they're gonna be like, "Well, aren't these AI data centers really gonna help AI take our jobs more?" And you're gonna be like, "Well," so you know, there's things there, but people, yeah, locally, I would say, you know, if you don't want it, you don't want it. There are going to be places that are going to be there, and no matter what, and I don't know what you do about that. If you got enough money, I guess you move. I don't know, um,
Yeah,
but it's
get
going to
out.
be difficult and it's going to be tough. But like you said, AI is going to do great things. We hope that it doesn't do many of the things that we discussed last week. So check out that episode where AI takes over the world and causes doom for all of us. But yeah, we want it to be a positive effect. And yeah, I mean, I guess if other people have their thoughts on data centers, let us know what you think because I'm sure we'd be interested to hear them. All right. Well, it's been a great episode. Everybody, I hope you enjoy. We've got a doomsday episode about AI that released last week. So go check that out if you haven't seen that yet. And, stick with us. We appreciate you. And to all of you, have a great week. And until next time, thanks for watching.
Bye.